Hello everyone, welcome back to the lab. Today we have another long video about the recap of my YCS Indianapolis for the past weekend. If in case anyone don't know, I played Rescue Ace for this YCS. Unfortunately wasn't lucky enough, didn't make to top 32, but it was alright. I think the deck performed well. I believe the deck would be the best deck, and then I was right. The deck ended with winning the event. However, I'm not gonna really talk about my race deck because it's like most of the race deck look the same. Instead, I'm more talking about in like a Tearlament angle, because Tear was my second choice for the tournament. However, it was dropped about a week prior to the tournament. That I think it will be a better way to really discuss and to really reflect how I approach to this AGOV format, to this YCS Indy. So let's just jump to it. But first of all, there are some background information that kind of want to talk about. King of the Swamp. It's a relatively fusion staple card that has been played in Tearlaments since I guess the February ban list, because the after kickouts get banned. This is the only way to reliable summon root cows by any at all. And then King of Swamp being able to search fusion, being able to provide the body as an aqua is being played a lot since February. However, recently, started like a month ago, there were some big discussions about this card, about if tiers should still running this card or not. And from YCS Dormant, there were a lot of lists that didn't. And then, since then, I've seen, I think Jesse even posted a video specifically talking about this card. And there were also a lot of discussions in all the Tearlaments, like Facebook, Discord group pages that I just witnessed and heard. So let me give out my take on this card. Is this card good? Yes. Is this card needed? Not as much as before after AGOV. Is this card being cut because it's bad? No. Well, then why is it being cut? Because there are better cards in AGOV. In Age of Overload, that I think King of Swamp really conflicting with it, both being like a thing in hand or the mills, and also taking too many extra deck spaces. Usually the King of Swamp package, including King of Swamps, the polymerization that you can search of King of Swamp, then 3 of the fusion targets for King of Swamp, Rukados, Grapha, and then Guardian Chimera. However, after AGOV, we got the new Horus cards. A lot of people asked me during the weekend, are Horus good? Are Horus needed in the tier deck? Are Horus aren't Horus like terrible mills or anything? My short answer to it, Horus is absolutely needed in tier. They are a bit too good to not run, in my opinion. In case anyone not familiar with the Horus cards, mainly there's only 2 Horus like monsters and the Sark that we played. One of the main searcher MSETI, the secret from the set. You discard, well no, you don't discard. You send this card and another card from your hand to graveyard to search the king's sarcophagus. And then the other one is mainly just a brick. Both Horus monster or all Horus monster has a common effect. When King Sark is on your field, you can just inherently special summon them back from the graveyard. And that's pretty much it. That's honestly the only really effect we using from the monsters. They have like decent onboard effect if another card get removed, but in a deck like Tearlaments, they are usually just serve as a rank A play body. Therefore, they barely ever stay on the field. Then King's Sarcophagus, you send a card from your hand to graveyard, send a Horus monster from deck to graveyard. So M City plus another any card in hand and can get you King Sark, draw one, and then you most likely pitch either that draw or another card to send the other copy. This will give you 2 level 8 bodies, and that's all we need going to Zombie Vampire. Zombie Vampire has a effect where detach a material to mill 4 cards from both players, like each side, the top deck, and then able to specimen one of the monster that was milled by its effect. Why do I say Horus cards are nearly mandatory? It is true there are relatively bad mills. M City being a dark is like the only connection with tier cards. However, they are the very few mills that doesn't rely on Kelback and Guido. I think current tier strategies relying a bit too much on the Shizu millers. And if either the millers will not hit, or the millers didn't hit anything good, then this game could just be like a very bad downhill and probably end with losing. However, the Horus cards providing mills, bypassing the millers. Therefore, they can be added together. Like, your Zombie Vampire can easily can possibly hit one of the millers, or possibly hitting Diviner, then using Diviner to access the millers. And those will add it up, and actually will causing more different, more impact to the field. Why then a lot of people play only one copy of King Sark, which I disagree. I think this is a 2-off. Imseti, all the Horus cards, it's such an impactful play that usually will get ashed by any opponent. Therefore, we can use a reverse psychological and just use some of the tier cards to force out Ash and then resolve Imseti and other Horus. One way I've been playing with the new cards is try to access the Sharon and then activate Sharon in my hand. If my opponent has Ash, they are like nearly 90% of the time Ash this Sharon. Because Sharon pitch a card, pitch a monster, mill 3, then this mill 3 could cause even more mills. It could be too much to handle by my opponent, so Sharon is usually a guaranteed Ash target. However, if Sharon gets ashed, then that means Imseti is guaranteed resolving, grabbing King Sark and turn on all the Horus lines, and that's why. But however, if Sharon resolved in this situation, means there's most likely no ash from the opponent. But if King Sark, if the only one copy of King Sark gets milled by this Sharon effect, or by like additional mills after this Sharon, it could be very weird for this situation afterwards, because now you have to rely on hoping to hitting another shuffler through your more mills and shuffle back the King Sword to turn on the Horus, which is probably not even happening. Therefore, I think playing 2 King Sword is the better way. So just to reduce the odds of King Sword being milled by like a miller at the very beginning that tried to bait Ash. So these are the 6 card package. Even raw drawing King Sark isn't that bad, because worst case you just like 3 card turn on. There are some okay discard, being Trivia Karma or the Shizu cards for King Sark to turn on the combos. So at the end it's okay for raw drawing King Sark. I also do like to draw M-Seti with a King Sark, so I can just M-Seti first and hope to check if there's Ash. Even there is, I still have another copy of King Sark and just pitch another one, start combo with Zombie Vampire. So there has been several different strategies through the past like months that has been doing well. One big strategy, or I guess instead of really calling specific cards, the most common thing you can determine which one is the first fusion monster they prioritize to fuse into. One is the level 6 strategy or the rank 6 strategy, using Destiny Heroes with any tier monster going to Destiny Hero Dangerous Then Dangerous can remill the Malicious, then turn on a rank 6 play and go into Beatrice to send millers and do things. That's one of the more common way that has been played, I guess, among the non-Chinese people. The other way, which is the one I pretty much invented, I guess a while ago, that was also my choices for North American WCQ during June or July, is abusing Cartesia with any of the tier monster going to a Gragno, the Dust Dragon, the one that usually being played in Branded. However, it's still possible in tier. Gragno on summon can send a level 6 or higher light or dark monster from deck or extra to graveyard, and Shaddoll App Cologne is the target I choose. That will enable all the Shaddoll plays, including both Shaddoll Dragon going second or Shaddoll Schism going first. And Schism, for most people know, can access Winda from during opponent's turn, which is a pretty reliable strategy. And King of Swamp, let's go back to that card a little bit. King of Swamp has been dropped more from this D-Hero, or I say the 6-axis angle, because Dangerous requires Destiny Hero monster plus Dark Effect monster. The tier that it's fusing to is obviously the Dark Effect monster. King of Swamp doesn't really replace the Destiny Hero part because it's not a specific name. It's an archetype name here. So King of Swamp doesn't help making Dangerous, which is also why a lot of people been cutting King of Swamp from the D-Hero, the 6-axis version of tier. However, in my version of tier, the more using Cartesia, which specifically required Cartesia for Gragno, that part can be replaced by King of Swamp. So the longest time I've actually been enjoying King of Swamp, didn't even think about cutting King of Swamp for like a while. And that's also why there's a difference on King of Swamp for the two different versions of the list that causing different conclusion at the end. But why King of Swamp is being cut right now? Because the targets for King of Swamp, those three, Rukaos, Grapha, and Guardian Chimera, taking too many extra spaces. And SP Little Knight, a broken card that we got from AGOV, along with potentially Zombie Vampire from the Horus engine, those two also need two spots in the extra deck. It start conflicting with King of Swamps. And the more targets you cut for King of Swamp from your extra deck, the least required, it become more and more unnecessary to even run King of Swamp. That, I think, it become the reason why King of Swamp is unfortunately being dropped. But it's for the good. And be more specific, and let's look at into two lists that I kind of built and tested with. They are both relatively unfinished lists because I dropped the whole tier decks in general a week-ish prior to YCS Indy. So they do look a bit unfinished, unpolished, but I think there are still cool ideas within the several lists I'm showing. The first version is like a more, quote, at this point, traditional 6-axis of tier, abusing tier name fused with D-Hero into malicious, into Dangerous, using Dangerous turn on rank 6 plays by milling malicious, and then using Beatrice to send the millers to make the board bigger. What's the new thing that's different than my list and other? I added a copy of Constellar Ptolemy M7. This is also a rank 6 monster. You detach a material to add a monster back from either graveyard to their owner's hand. Why do I think this is in my opinion, nearly necessary for the 6-axis deck? Because this can also add back Imseti, the Horus card, the Horus starter. So now suddenly the two engines connect. You can do You can do the standard rank 6, like the tier plays into a level 6 fusion into dangerous, then turn on a rank 6 plays. But instead of Beatrice going to M7 add by M-City, pitch another card in hand. Which this version also do have a lot more targets you can pitch, mainly being the Rhino Warrior and the Shayama that power up the Shizu Mills. You can pitch those cards, get King Sark, turn a Zombie Vampire rank 8 play, Zombie Vampire keep milling cards, and then turn the M7 and Zombie Vampire into a Cross Sheep or an SP Load Knight. Depends on the mills and depends on the board. That, I think, is actually a fun way. It's actually probably the way to play a 6-axis tier. And at the YCS, I saw a lot of people still playing the 6-axis, but a lot of people, I didn't see any M7 being summoned or even being mentioned, which, unfortunate. I guess if they knew about it, they probably had better odds for the tournament. But at the end, I didn't see it happening. However, if you look at this list, it's quite unfinished. Like, there's only even 14 cards in the extra that was like 2 copies of Draco Stapelia. The issue for this ranks, like 6-axis version, I think, is the ceiling is relatively lower compared to the other lists I'm going to show after. There are, like, without Baron, there's nearly not many things to make. Like, Kaleido plus Trap is honestly the only, like, real big interruption. After that, just, like, maybe Drago. But Drago is, like, mid. And then, sometimes there are situations where I do want to, like, do Diviner and Drago 2A into a Baron. That I don't want to just waste the first Drago. So I prefer to have a second one. And sometimes I do even want to, like, Diviner, send another Diviner turn it into a 4, then 4-6 into Baron. Because there are so many level 6 axes in the whole deck. I think potentially there's like Mali, Dangerous, Denier turn on the second Mali, Diviner itself milling, and then Shizu become a 6, Garura, and the Shayama. There's so many level 6 existing in the deck. So I do have situation where I want my Diviner to be level 4. That's why I played 2 Diviner instead of 1. And what other thing? Oh, in case anyone don't know, I'm only I don't really think the Field Spell Perino is that good of a card. This probably is one of the hottest take I've ever said in this tier. In all the tier groups, that a lot of people even don't like me because of me saying it. But I'll say it here. Field Spell isn't as good a card after Kikalas got banned. It doesn't do enough by itself, because by itself it gets you Rhino Heart and mill 2 by sending to your cache, and that's it. If you want more copy of Sharon, there's other ways to do it by just adding Foolish Goods. And then that potentially will be better, because Foolish Goods can also be other things and not just Sharon by itself. And more copies of Perino, like draw opening going, doesn't matter going first or second, drawing multiple copies of Perino can be game changing and losing the game, because it's just a complete dead card in hand that can't even be discarded by Sharon. And for all the benefits that can come up with Perino staying on the field, enabling shufflers, enabling the pop, and boosting the attack, it still exists by playing 2 copies of the actual Field Spell, because Tribute Karma as a card existing in the deck. And there, in case anyone not know, there were a lot of draws at the YCS. So I think reducing the number of fields are a better thing, and should, in my opinion, the correct thing to do. But besides that, another thing, after cutting King of Swamp, the whole deck, especially try to fusing Kaleido Heart, it has like a lower amount of Aqua Monster existing in the deck. That's why a small danger package, potentially the smallest that I'm running, just 2 Nessie, 1 Tsuchinoko is nearly required. Like, you can really think these are just the King of Swamps, but does something different and when in your hand. And Nessie on the other part, it's sometimes slightly better than King of Swamp by being a dark. So it like tier names plus Nessie can go into Garura, which is another level 6, where when tier plus the King of Swamp couldn't even do that. So this is like this is like my version of the 6-axis tier. I had fun with it. When it go off, it can make some pretty crazy board by just like, and there's Crushy, Baron, Little Knight, Drago, Traps, and other things. But I didn't choose this version because I think the other version, in my opinion, I preferred it more, which is the old Shaddoll version that I've played, I guess since May, so it's been like nearly half year at this point. This version, abusing Cartesia. Cartesia, for anyone who played Branded, probably more familiar. It's actually kind of sort of King of Swamp by itself, because it has a fusion effect by itself, which nearly only going to Gragno when you pair it up with a light or dark monster. The bad side about this version is you kind of have to hit Cartesia from your mills to have strong plays, where the other version you can do a lot of different, like normal Diviners a 6, then hit Mali is already it's another 6 that already turn on, like Beatrice and M7. This one you kind of have to hit Cartesia, but the odds of hitting Cartesia isn't low, and raw drawing Cartesia is actually potentially better, because Cartesia by itself is nearly guaranteeing Gragno. In this version, I didn't play any of the rank 6 in the extra deck because the extra deck is kind of tight due to having a good amount of Shaddoll monster. For someone who's wondering, why is Grista, the fire Shaddoll, here? Through my testing, I find out without a good Schism target, Race can actually break board from like even like full combo, just like Baron, Cross Sheep, Schism, Redoer, and maybe Soliac. They can technically break it with like just even the full engine hand. But if I'm able to have a target, a fire target to summon, which makes Schism sending their race monster, it will make them very nearly impossible to do afterwards. Grista by itself, like, it has an effect. It negates Inherent Summon if you have another Shaddoll to discard, but it doesn't come up that often. Mainly it's the fire body to use, and that kind of require me to hit Hollow. But this version is it can do a lot of things without milling a lot. That's the part I like. That's also the reason I prefer this version, because it doesn't need to hit the miller to do things, to combo. It does. Like, my biggest problem with the 6-axis, because it's relying too much on miller. Either the miller wasn't hit because it wasn't lucky enough, or just because of other interruptions, or the miller will hit, but the miller itself didn't hit anything else from the mill 5, or if hit like a very weak mill. Those can just end the game instantly and losing on the spot. Where the Shaddoll version, first of all the Shaddoll cards, there are more Shaddoll cards to hit. Second of all, without the millers, it can do more. It doesn't rely on those millers that much. Cartesia itself is like such a combo starter, and in like a good amount of hands. Just imagine Zombie Vampire hitting a Cartesia. Your board is like astronomically big already. That's why I end up preferring this Shaddoll version of it. However, there are downsides. Shaddoll monster could be bricky, but that apply to all the random target. like Rhino Warrior and Shayama, and honestly even the D heroes. So that part is similar. Schism is another, like the force trap in the deck. Give another trap to the opening hand. That part I don't like, but that I don't think it's possible to solve it. 2 Zodiac, 1 Trivia Combo, 1 Schism is like minimum. Well, honestly, the first 3 are minimum in like any tier deck. If you look closer to these 2 lists, I didn't play any copy of Meta Noise or Crime, because these 2 cards are a bit way more sometimes, and a lot of time, like even yes, there is tier cache, but Meta Noise isn't that good a mill because you always have access to tier cache already, or you don't need a recycle back, or you just didn't hit tier cache, but Meta Noise went to Brave first. The timing could be weird, and like opening too many traps can also just cause a game, which I don't like. That's why I ended just having to run nearly the minimum amount of traps in tier decks. And a lot of people didn't even play, but I think Grief is a mandatory card in like nowadays in the tier decks. Doesn't matter what version you play. Grief is another target you can search of Trivia Karma. In a lot of situations where I like to go having just tier cache as my single tier card in hand and just start the combo with Grief summon Rhino then send Rhino will fight in the graveyard, channeling 1, while tier cache channeling 2 in hand, banish the Grief to summon. Then Rhino all the tier monster resolve like by the sequence. So Rhino will special summon itself, then send the tier card from hand to graveyard. But if there isn't any tier card, it will still try to resolve as much as it can, summon Rhino. And so you get a free Rhino summon of comboing with Grief and tier cache. Here, Rhino will be channeling 1, tier cache will be channeling 2. You have a random mill 3 into a guaranteed mill 1 by choices. This will have a good chance to enable whatever combo you trying to do in any version of tier. And that line, like that way of play is like guaranteeing so many things that I just don't think is like a lot of people don't play this card. I find out crazy. That's it. And besides that, yes, this despite it is the version I like. It is. I was not playing it, or before that, I just played it a little bit before AGOV. Well, I was playing like. Let me show you this one. This would be my YCS Dormant deck if I was going. It was using... Why are we asking the question of do I play either 6-axis or Shaddoll? Why don't we just play both? And that idea ended up making this list. It is a pre-AGOV list for last format, but it has King of Swamp and Cartesia and the D hero and just does all. The only thing it doesn't have is the Horus card from the AGOV. However, this doesn't really apply after AGOV due to I have to fit at least 2 cards in the extra deck. Little Knight and Zombie Vampire. It's not possible to do. Santa's dropping. I just couldn't figure out a way that includes everything I want in my tier list, and so I dropped tier. That's one big reason. The second big reason, I heard from both like Discord, IOL, there were so many people just have tier PTSD from the full power tier time, where whenever they see tier spark anything in the meta, they just start super heavily preparing it to the point they may even over prepared. Hindsight. At the YCS on that Friday, I walked around, I was bored, I was waiting for my friends. I just witnessed other people playing tier, talking about against tier, and I saw like there were purelies, there were unchains, mingling were even siding shifters. And alongside that, there is like at least either Droll or Crow in nearly everyone's Ming deck. If not, might be even the other set of copies in the side. with some bestials. Yeah, Tier just can't handle this. Tier is the balance has hit Tier for too much to the point Tier cannot like withstand these amount of hates anymore. That's also why you didn't see that many Tiers in Top Cup. There were only 2 out of 32, and those 2 were specifically piloted by world level players. That already says something. In my opinion, Tier at YCS Indy, you have to be both good, not making mistakes, and lucky to get to Top Cup. Usually, if you build a deck correct, you have an average hand, you're not winning. Because why? There's so many Tier hating other people's deck. Tier cannot be like a random draw out of nowhere. If you do play around it, you lose to other things more, like just a regular Ash Imperm. And after siding, there's even Bestial or Shifters from decks that shouldn't even have them. You lose to it. If you draw bad, alright, that's automatically game. If you have to draw both good, be lucky, mill good, and also not making mistakes. With these amount of requirements to even top, if they were playing hypothetically, in my opinion, a better deck, Race, Unchained, or even Purely, they probably, with the same amount of luck and skill, they probably already be like top 4 or higher, potentially even winning the event. But if they end up choosing Tier, top 32 or top 16 might be the furthest, because that's what the deck is capable for. I realized that, so I dropped it. It just not worth the trip for like betting my odds on like slot machines. While everyone, like, I couldn't just even be milling good, but there was a shifter, there's a draw, still couldn't do anything. That's why I think Tier is actually positioned, like, Tier technically got better because Horus is from AGOV. But Tier is positioning so horribly in the meta that I'm just really saying it's not recommended to play Tier. Unfortunate. I want to, I cannot. And I guess a lot of people would be disagreeing with me on whatever I just said. I understand, but that was what I realized doing my preparation. Still, shout outs to the ones that did top with Tier. They are definitely good players with skillful plays, and probably is also lucky with the deck. Shout out to them, still giving Tier some tops in this format. But however, if you are still hesitating about YCS Richmond coming in 2 weeks, maybe it's time to just join Race, join like Purely, even Unchained. Put Tier down. I don't recommend it, and I don't want you to have like a horrible weekend. Just feel like you're being entitled by the entire room. It'll probably just not be fun. And that being said, at the end, I think this format is fun. I like Race as a deck, and Race is one of the few decks in the history where none of the single card really beat the deck. You need a combination of either cards, from preventing things happen using hand traps or breaking boards after things happen with board wipes. You need usually at least 2 copies from either category to do things. Where Tier cannot do that. Tier, as the other list I showed earlier, usually only able to have like 3 to 4 non-engine cards in the main deck. Usually like either a place of something or 2 pairs of something out of like 40 to 42 card deck. Will have more than that, will causing the mills to be horrible. Thus, just the deck doesn't function. Having too few means you like, or if you like complete, for example, complete not even running non-engine, then going second, you're just pretty doomed against Race set 4 with other things. And in a format where if you reliably want to draw at least 2 copy of non-engine, I think the ratio lands around like 9 to 31. So 9 engine, 31 main, 31 core. 9 to 31, 10 to 30, 12 to 28. Potentially, if your deck can, 14 to 26 is even possible. Like, I'm trying to see if Unchain or Race can go to that ratio. I think Cash Tier back then could have 26 card engine with 14 non-engine. And while still functioning, like, consistently doing things. However, Tier couldn't. Tier is like a 37 to 3, that kind of ratio deck. Thrives in some formats, but not right now. And Race is currently the biggest deck, so having a solid strategy against Race is nearly mandatory when going to YCS. That's why I also think Tier just couldn't be the best, couldn't be even a good deck at the moment. Obviously, at the end, I'm not 100% correct on everything. Feel free to just, if you have any counter argument, if you disagree on with something, if you believe I'm wrong, you just wanna slap my face and just go with Tier for Richmond and do well with it. Go for it. I respect it. Do it. But here's my take. Here's my hot takes. I hope you like this kind of discussions, and I hope these kind of discussions do help you preparing YCS, preparing any form of tournaments you are going. And I hope you like the content like this. That being said, hope to see everyone in the next video. I will be gladly see everyone. Bye bye.